Here we go. Let's say hi.
Hello, you guys. Welcome to Dog Hugs. We have the full crew here today.
And a barker. We're just so exciting. We are that exciting. I think that's what it is. Don't you?
I mean, of course we're exciting. Who wouldn't?
We are.
So for those guests, Robbie, who haven't yet met this little fella who's there, who's that?
This is, if I could get him in, my grandson, Atlas. Atlas, can you wave and say hi? He's almost 2, and he's made a few appearances, and he's pretty good on camera.
He sure is.
Sure is. He has that sparkle.
A little bit of time with him before I go back to the house.
He's really into the electronics today. Yeah.
We're having him watch a video so that he'll kind of sit for a little while.
And Geraldine, I love that shirt that you're wearing.
So
my
bright.
Colorado Rocky Mountain shirt. Isn't it great? Yeah, this is one of my faves.
Love it.
You are not in Kansas City, Dorothy. Where are you?
I soon will be clicking my red heels to take me back to Kansas, but until then, I am almost 10,000 feet above sea level in sunny, gorgeous Breckenridge, Colorado.
Nice.
Needed a little Zen time, actually. It was my time. I needed a few moments of Zen, which is right in line with our guest today, because he is a big proponent and teacher of moments of Zen.
Mm-hmm.
Brought myself back to nature, cleared the brain, got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to do, but I'm dogless, and I'm not used to being dogless.
Oh, that's got to be weird.
Well, I know you sent us some photos of you and local dogs.
I was rolling around in the street. I bumped into one of my classmates from UMKC, my MBA program, and he happened to be walking down the street with his wife, and I was recording all of the pets, and we'll share some video of that tomorrow. This is a dog-friendly town. Like, there's nothing that is not dog-friendly here.
Wow.
And so I was recording everyone's dogs, and someone said, "Is that Geraldine?" And the next thing I know, I'm rolling around with my friend's dogs on the street in the middle of Breckenridge. Small world.
That is really wonderful. Speaking of dog tricks, which we weren't, we're going to talk about human tricks.
Nice segue.
That was beautiful.
Where Spider was going to be bad, and then he was going to perform and all this kind of thing. But he's being so good. He's like, I don't know if you can see this. He's right down here. I'm risking this by tilting my monitor.
I see a waggy tail.
Yeah, there's a waggy tail.
Laying down.
He's doing so good. So I am just going to let him be. Geraldine, his training is starting to come together. Yeah.
So great. You know, a lot of the...
And it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I know that. Yeah.
That's just being human. That's us as being human, and allowing them to have time to transition and learn new behaviors or new routines or new triggers. It's a totally way of changing their thinking. Just like I come out here to change my thinking.
There goes Spider. I think the mail is being delivered right now. Yeah.
Another trigger.
Tim at my house doing a delivery.
Well, I was going to say, maybe Tim and I need to come to California, and Tim can wear his postal uniform. I'll talk to him about that.
There we go.
That'll be great. Okay, so let's get into introducing our guest, Vital Germaine. And just really excited to share Vital with you folks. We had, usually we do a pre-interview with each guest. Well, it was so eye-opening with Vital that we ended up with a second one, and we could have done a third and a fourth. I mean, you'll see, this guy is amazing. Okay, so he's performed in Cirque du Soleil. We put up a little image there. So there he is down here with Paula Abdul right in the middle. He is an amazing, and we'll show some more photos later. He's an amazing painter. And now he motivates people. He speaks all over the place and has some great message to share about leadership. And I mean, I don't know. I'm tongue-tied here. Germaine, save me here, my friend.
It's easy to become tongue-tied and become speechless around a lot of our guests because they are that incredible. And what I love about our guest today is that he and I have a little bit in common. First of all, I met him when I was living and training in Las Vegas through dogs. I trained his dogs Bianca in London for a very short amount of time. But he already had everything he needed. So he was an amazing pet owner, but he is a leader and a teacher in resilience. And that's one of his, to me, that's one of his gems. And he has so many. He's like a pave diamond ring. There's just so many sparkles on that ring. It's incredible. But that's one of our in common items, is that being able to lead animals through into a place of resilience. So.
Well, with that intro, let's bring Vital Germaine into the studio right now. Welcome, Vital.
Hello, everybody. Wow, I don't know how to live up to the expectation. While I was off camera, I was practicing my bark so I could somewhat rival Spider, but my bark does no justice. So thank you for all the compliments, and thank you for having me. What a pleasure. What an honor. Thank you, guys. Yeah,
it's really a treat. Now, I'm seeing next to your name, Kibo and Kari, in the text there. Is there a chance at some point they're going to pop into the show here?
I would love that to happen, but dogs are spontaneous. They will do as they please, as they do in my house. They come and go as they like. Kibo is actually right now at my feet.
Yeah.
So you can't see him. And Kari is still somewhat getting settled in. I've only had him five days, and he's finding his spot, but hopefully he will make an appearance because he really is an amazing dog.
Well, to give you guys a little bit of a treat, let's start off by showing you these amazing dogs. Yeah.
Love these pictures.
In a little bit, we'll even show you a video that Vital made. And here's new dog.
There's Kari. Yes.
Kari.
Kari.
You must have taken that the other day, because as I recall, in our first conversation, you had literally just brought Kari home from the shelter.
Yes, and while we were talking, I was getting used to her. She was getting used to me. She was kind of like stealing stuff in my office, and I was trying to figure out how to handle her. But now, in 5 days, all is good, all is well. She's no longer anxious, and she's just calm, and it's a treat for me.
Probably the fact that you ignored her for that amount of time while you were on the computer, so focused with us, that actually was probably a benefit to her adjusting. It probably was.
Probably. Yes, let's give ourselves credit for that. Yes.
Yes. That's interesting. That's so paradoxical to me, Geraldine, that the dog is more, what, because we pay the dog appropriate attention?
So we'll go into more of that later for sure. But I have this rule that, and I'm going to say this improperly. So please forgive me, and also for saying it this way. But most importantly, it's really important to understand that if you pay too much attention to them, they won't have the respect for you for your leadership. So it's not respect. I don't mean that word respect. I just mean they won't honor you as the one that leads them around the house. They'll try to lead themselves, and that's not always safe, and it's very dangerous at points. So if that makes sense, I hope I communicated that properly.
Got it. I love that you used the word honor. That's just a beautiful word, and really it lands really nicely for me. And so here's Vital. You're resting at home.
Well, I'm actually trying to work, but then Kibo is telling me, like, chill out, Vital. Take a break. Give me some love. I'm going to give you some love, and then you'll have clarity and peace of mind, and you'll execute your tasks in an elevated level. So instinctually, I always try and go with the flow of what my dogs are trying to communicate.
Right on. So today we're going to talk ultimately with you about leadership and teams, and as Gerald mentioned, resiliency. And I know some of that you learned or experienced, while you were at Cirque.
Yes.
And what was that like?
Now, Cirque du Soleil unto itself is an incredible experience. It was a life-changing event for me because I had just arrived from Belgium, relatively naive. I arrived in Manhattan, no idea what was going on, and I was struggling. I actually lived in a rat-infested studio while pursuing my dream. The dream was to come to America, dance for Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, even maybe Michael Bolton at the time. I didn't care. That was the dream.
Yeah.
And one morning I'd been auditioning and I was struggling. And one morning somebody said, hey, there's this French-Canadian company, couldn't even pronounce the name. I'd never heard of them. And they said, you should go and audition for them. And I thought, well, this is really silly. And then I went and auditioned for them and I acted silly. I clowned around at the audition. And
Gee, why am I surprised not about that, Vital?
it's a part of my nature, sort of being childlike. But I clowned around at the audition, not knowing who they were.
Yeah.
And then they offered me the gig, and I turned them down. And they invited me to come and see the show as a kind of a thank you. And I went to see the show at Battery Park in Manhattan. The show was called Saltimbanco, and I had no idea what to expect. I actually kind of thought maybe traditional circus, elephants, lions, human cannonballs. And I went to this show, and it touched me so deeply. I felt like whatever your religious entity is, whatever that word is for you, that passed through me. And it changed me. And luckily, they gave me a second chance. And that was literally the beginning of my American dream. It opened doors that I didn't think could be opened. And beyond the dream, there was this incredible learning curve about all aspects that have actually now guided me into becoming the things that I've become. So I'm eternally grateful. Now, having said that, it's not all poetry. Like in every job, there are challenges. There's company BS that we don't agree with and that we don't like. But the big takeaway for me was the richness of the experience.
I hear that. That is such a challenge. Sometimes I know my negative self-talk can overwhelm. That one negative thing can sometimes overwhelm the 99 things of beauty and magic.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I remind myself to focus on the good things, because to be honest, the good things, and this is sort of in life in general, the good things normally outweigh the bad things, but we get hooked or caught up in the negative, and we sometimes get stuck there. But ultimately remind yourself and be grateful for the good things that happen.
And that happens to everybody. That's a human trait. That is not something unusual. So the best thing to do is to learn how to be aware when you're doing that and redirect yourself, or transform yourself back into that positive, authentic person you are, which is one of Vital's amazing.
Yes, one of my sort of key components you mentioned earlier is a mindset, which includes resilience, and that taps into leadership. It taps into our relationships on a personal level, on a professional level, even with our dogs in terms of leadership. As humans, we are the leaders for our dogs, and the way that we interact and treat them defines that relationship.
Oh, beautifully said. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Vital, in the world of creation, you're also an amazing visual artist. And I just love your work.
So this one, the very short version story of that, the title of this one is Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And this is the journey. It's a metaphor for the journey of life.
Yeah.
Any form of success, any form of achievement requires certain elements. There is the commitment element. There is the overcoming barriers, facing your own doubts, your own insecurities. There is the dedication to be knocked down and get back up and just keep at it. And again, going back to the American dream with Cirque du Soleil, there were a lot of obstacles to overcome. And it's easy to say once you've achieved the dream, because you can look back and be like, yes, I've done it. But while you're navigating that journey, it's very easy to be tempted to give up, because sometimes the challenges are overwhelming. We can't see beyond the horizon, and we tend to sometimes give up. And then that's where resilience taps into it. So this painting really is a metaphor for resilience.
Yes.
It's incredible. And they're
Is there
even more powerful in person. This doesn't do them all the justice they deserve. They're so gorgeous in person as well. Oh my gosh,
they're
overwhelming.
all very large pieces. This is a completely different mindset, because I was in a different place in our lives. We all go through phases in our lives. This is post-divorce, and I was going through heartache, and I was trying to really find my peace of mind, my zen. And so I really... Sorry, go ahead, Larry.
I noticed on the left side, you even have some writing right on it. So you were a writer as well.
That is actually a poem from Pablo Neruda,
Ooh.
I'm also romantic. And Pablo Neruda, many of you might not be familiar with him, but he was the poet that was featured in the movie The Postman, El Postino. And one of his favorite quotes, which is this piece is titled that, is love is so short, forgetting is so long. So the romantic in me, I love the concept of love in all the ways that we embrace it and experience it, whether it's romantic, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's with animals. Love to me is the foundation of everything. And sometimes it gets shaken at its core, and we have to recalibrate, rebalance, realign, and find our center. And when we can do that, we find synchronicity in our lives. But it all comes, again, our mindset and making sure that our heart is in the right place.
Oh, I hear that that your art is conceptual. When you paint, I mean, you have a lot of thought process that goes on about that.
Oh, absolutely. Don't judge me by my dreadlocks and my smile. I am deep and philosophical, and I hopefully I have a sense of humor to counterbalance that.
Beautiful.
I love that. That's such a great point. Humor sustains us in so many different ways, doesn't it?
Yes,
really great quality to have.
But I don't tell jokes. I don't tell jokes.
Only inadvertently, maybe.
There you go.
I would love to share with folks some of the things that we've talked about leadership and team building. Geraldine has already mentioned resilience, and I mean, have at it.
Well, in terms of, so I'll briefly start with resilience, and I will share something very personal, because I want people to understand that there's got to be authenticity behind, at least I firmly believe in authenticity. So when I talk about resilience and things like attitude, it's not just simply because I read a few quotes and I was inspired and then I go and piggyback off of that. I have lived the journey, and I don't want violins to start playing for me as I say this, but I've lived the journey that was very challenging. And the short version is, I mean, I grew up in Belgium, and unfortunately my father was sexually abusive. My mother was an alcoholic, and I was raised in the British childcare system in a home. And so basically from the age of 4, my mother really got caught up in alcoholism and couldn't take care of us, and she would throw us out onto the streets during her moments of drunken dysfunction. And this is me and my 2 brothers. And then eventually the authorities placed us into childcare. And so from the age of 7, I lived in childcare, living with such dysfunction. There was teenage prostitution, attempted stabbings, attempted suicides, drug addiction, you name it. And somewhere along those lines, and this sort of is maybe something for your viewers, is that we're never a victim of circumstance. Sometimes the choices are really, really difficult and seem impossible, but ultimately we always get to choose. And I told myself that that is not my path. I had a sense of feeling of what I wanted to become. Naively as a child, I had dreams and aspirations. That was not my path. Later on in life, I learned the power of attitude. And Viktor Frankl, if any of you are familiar with Viktor Frankl, one of my now go-to quotes is Viktor Frankl in terms of attitude tying into resilience. His quote is this. He says that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. And so no matter what you are going through today, dig deep and make the choice and determine what the outcome, what do you want that outcome to be? And along the way you develop resilience is you incrementally overcome small obstacles, and that gives you more confidence.
I love that you're bringing up Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning is a book that I can recommend folks. Viktor Frankl was in a Nazi concentration camp and was able to have that positive mental attitude. And it's like, how is that possible? Well, read this book or even listen to Vital, and that's how.
Yeah, so attitude, mindset. Now, in terms of leadership, again, it comes back to mindset. As leaders, we have a responsibility to... So let me start by saying leadership has changed. 20, 30, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, leadership was all about, well, I'm in charge.
Right.
I have power, and you're going to do what I tell you. And we were submissive, and we went along. And now modern mindsets and modern leadership is not about power anymore. It's about empowering. And I think that ties actually into dog training. We were speaking briefly off camera about giving dogs a certain element of freedom and liberty. And now it's more about reward rather than punishing a dog for being bad. We teach them the value of doing good things. And in terms of leadership in corporate America and in any business capacity, it is about acknowledging the qualities of your team, reinforcing, giving support to those, the things that they need, resources and challenges, inspiring them to want to become better. And that's what we do with our loved ones, our pets. We want them to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Look at him thriving.
Yeah.
This was on our first day that I got him, which is literally, I think it's now 5 or 6 days ago. It was the initial moments of bonding and him having to trust me and me having to trust him. Mm-hmm. And again, trust is a huge component of leadership.
Would you like to know what I see in those eyes through that picture?
Oh, please tell me.
I see relief. He looks relieved.
Wow. Yes.
Doesn't he? You can see he's like, oh my gosh, where have you been? Like, oh.
Yeah.
Very relaxed and trusting.
Yeah.
He looks relieved and very happy, but oh my gosh, I'm certain the journey there wasn't easy. So what a bonding moment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Vital, we invited you also to challenge us as a team, Bobby and Carolyn and Spider, and how we, with this show, Dog Hugs, can build an even better team.
So I'm gonna, rather than I'm actually gonna ask you a question. So obviously, the creation of a team is crucial.
Yeah.
Who do you bring on board? Who do you invite? Who do you allow to take certain responsibilities? So my question to you is, because my instinctual and initial reaction is, I see the synergy, the chemistry with you guys. You are able to feed off of each other, and that collective energy is what gives you your superpower, so to speak. So I'm curious, how did you instinctually find each other? That's going really deep now. How did you find each other? And then how did you understand and acknowledge we are on the same page, we have the same sense of purpose? How do you make that happen? Because a lot of challenges for leaders is, how do you reach that point?
Robbie, you want to start with your story? Oh, maybe not.
I'll jump in with
Atlas, I don't know if you saw Atlas dancing around. I guess in answer to the question of how we all came together, it was at a pet conference.
Yeah.
So we all met and bonded over our love of pets and working with pets. So I think that was the initial thing that brought us together, don't you?
Yeah, we would not have met had it not been for that conference blog pod.
Right.
Yeah.
And Super Zoo. I know that I would see Larry every year for sure at Super Zoo for years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there are hundreds of people, and at Super Zoo there are thousands of people. What?
Multi-thousands.
What brought us?
I'm a little bit of a manifester. I shared that with Vital. I think through my own personal tragedies and victories and animal trainings and all of that big craziness, I learned I was a leader in my own thoughts to figure out what the secret was to be able to attract to me the people that were going to have the go button ready to press as well and be aligned. And I took it one step at a time. I didn't expect it all at once. That might have been part of the secret as well. I was very grateful for every step along the way, even if it was a bad step or something went wrong. And I was grateful for it going wrong because I knew something was better around the corner. So it was Viktor Frankl's attitude adjustment speech that probably helped in that as a young child. But then I said to the universe just 2 years ago, bring the right people and the right process to me. And the next thing I know, I have a scholarship to finish my MBA, and that's given to me. I did not apply for it. They actually contacted me about offering me a seat in the class. And then I bumped into Larry a couple of times, and I always chat with Robbie. Robbie and I have worked together for the last couple of years on different things. And and she's so talented. So I love and Larry's so talented. I love, and you, Vital, so talented. Those people show up for me. I cast out a net, and what comes back into me has really never let me down.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll echo what's been said by Geraldine and Robbie, and add that Robbie for me has been the glue. I mean, Robbie, how long have we been working together? I mean, it's 4 years. Way before we started this show.
5 years this summer.
5 years.
It's been a long time.
I remembered I volunteered to help out on the Positively Woof page, and then we started talking, and things just grew from there, and we started doing more and more projects together.
Right. Yeah, it kind of grew organically.
Then you have also, come down to California when we've been on vacation, so you've met our family. We just have really grown close.
Yes, I met Atlas before he was born.
You did, and you met him in real life last year.
To tap into what you guys are saying, there's a key component about relationships, and it also does tie into dogs. I'm one of those guys. I judge people by how my dogs interact with them or how they interact with my dogs. Dogs are highly intuitive. They sense energy. And the thing is, humans, we do that too. We think that we judge people based on their facial expressions and the way they shake their hand and how they dress. But instinctually, we get a strong sense of a person based on the energy that they emit. And oftentimes we negate that because we're in our head and we're logical. But if you really pay attention to your heart and your instincts, you get a sense of people from the get-go. And oftentimes we get either a negative energy and we negate it because the logical reasons are, well, they work here and they've got the qualifications, and we ignore that gut feeling. And I've learned over the years that when I trust my intuition, when I allow my heart to lead me and eliminate too much logic, I make better decisions, and I find that I develop stronger relationships with people based on that organic growth. And that was the word you added there, Larry. Organic growth. It's crucial to relationships.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that organic growth and the intuition. As a creator myself, especially as a writer, I make decisions with every word.
Yeah.
And if I don't trust we call it our gut. If I don't trust my gut, I've removed that from my toolbox. Yes. And then what do I have? As you indicated, then I've only got to be up here.
Yeah.
Well, the words might become functionally good, but there's no magic to them. There's no artistry. There's no spark.
No heart.
Pardon me, Robbie?
No heart.
No heart.
The heart. They're doing more and more studies. There's the Heart Math Institute that is now doing a lot of research on the heart, and they've discovered that the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain does to the heart. The heart also emits a much higher level of energy and frequency than the brain.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was about to bring that up. I love when I saw that post, because that explains where dogs operate from. Dogs operate from their heart, not their head.
Yes.
They operate from love. They make choices based off of that energy field, not based off of where they've gone into their head and said, well, should I, shouldn't I? How do I handle this? Like, they don't have that mechanism that gets in the way sometimes, or many times. So it's always been my goal. And that's probably one of the reasons that turned me in. I'm lucky I was turned into a manifester by dogs healed me, and they showed me the way, and I listened and I put it into practice.
Yeah, really beautifully said. Another piece that you brought up with your own story is vulnerability. And I think one of the things that informs our team is that we've become friends, and that we're able to tell each other what's going on in our lives, be vulnerable. I mean, when Henrietta passed, Robbie's dog, Geraldine and I were there. It was like, well, of course, do you need some time off? And, of course.
And how can we
Vulnerability
help
is-
you? And yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's hard.
Vulnerability is a hard thing because it can often be, unfortunately, that people will translate vulnerability into a form of weakness, and then we're afraid to show our Achilles heel and our weaknesses. What I've learned over the years and in terms of leadership is a couple of things. Be selective as to who you are vulnerable with. If you have a good relationship and you trust that person, be vulnerable. They are now in a position to support and help you. If you are too vulnerable with the wrong people, they can crush you. But what I've learned in vulnerability is that if I can expose not only my victories, but if I allow you to see that through my journey, I have failed and I have had doubts, that now empowers you to know that, well, he's not perfect, therefore I'm not intimidating you. There's a stronger element of relatability. And that's how we can inspire people through expressing our vulnerability. But it takes courage.
Yeah, beautifully said. You know, and I love that paradox of there is strength in vulnerability.
Yeah.
Just love that.
Definitely. Definitely finding the strength and vulnerability is a special place to operate from. It helps you. It helps with your anxieties. It helps in so many different ways, especially decision making.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
One of the topics that we've talked about off camera is diversity in teams.
Yes.
And I would love to play this short little film that could be our jumping off point for talking about diversity. This sweet film that tells us a lot about animals as well. So here you go, 40-second film here, folks.
Once upon a time, in a land not so far from yours, lived a young man. His father was white. His mother was black. He had two beautiful dogs. One had a black face. The other had a white face. And they loved each other. And guess what? They lived happily ever after. So can we.
I love it.
Thank
Just
you
get
for sharing that.
chills.
Thank
I
you for
get
sharing
chills when I see the look on Kari's face. I got chills.
You just made that.
It was just one of those spontaneous moments that happened. They were kind of getting to bond with me and I was getting to bond with them, and I got my camera out and was able to kind of film while I'm holding them. And there was just, we've been talking about energy, there was just a moment in that where I had this epiphany that, wow, here we are just getting to know each other. We're trusting each other. We are different breed of dog. I'm a human. And yet we are finding this space to be in harmony.
Yeah.
And it just said so much, in particular, in regards to everything that is happening now.
Yes.
It also ties into my background. For me, diversity has been a crucial component. That ties into open-mindedness, which is also, Geraldine, a fundamental component of my message. By default of my background, and I've kind of summed up my eclectic background in a sentence, I'm a Belgian national with a British accent, born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who got to live the American dream by way of a French-Canadian circus. My father is Caucasian. My mother is African. I speak multiple languages, and I've been exposed to this wealth of differences. And what I've learned through that is, through all our differences, we are all ultimately the same. They're just nuances. Mm-hmm. And if I can simply respect, acknowledge, admire you for your different philosophies, your different cultures, you might be a Buddhist, you might be a Catholic, but ultimately we're all looking for the same thing. We are looking to be loved. We are looking to be heard, seen, and understood. And through my dogs, I just learned this fundamental component that if we just allow ourselves to be each other, we can coexist in each other's space. If I can embrace that you are Caucasian from Idaho, and you are Mexican from Puerto Vallarta, and you are from Russia, from Moscow, let's focus on what brings us together.
Beautifully said. You know, it reminds me of what we were talking about a few minutes ago about focusing on those mistakes rather than the 99 successes. You know, focusing on the things that separate us in a bad way, rather than the 99 things that bring us together diversely in good ways.
I do a very fun experiment when I do a lot of team building activities, and I'll try and explain it. But one of the activities is I divide people into groups. And what we do is, like, for example, I'll divide them into groups. I put these dots on their forehead, and I try and have them figure out to find the group that they belong with. And what commonly happens is they go with the color that was on the dot. That's how they group themselves. And then I ask them, why did you group yourself that way? Because that's not what I asked you. And remarkably, for whatever reason, they say, well, because that was the most apparent thing at the time. And so you'll get a group of 10 people over here with the red dot on their forehead and then the blues over there. Then I ask them, what other ways can we group ourselves? And then somebody will say, well, we could group ourselves by eye color. We rearrange, and now you're in a different group. And I ask them, observe each other, what you have in common. You all have the same eye color. What are other ways you can group each other? Well, we could do each by height, by birth date, by skin tone, by where you were born. And all of a sudden, people start to understand OMG, hashtag OMG. I realize that if I focus and allow myself to connect with other people, I can create a relationship based on my eye color. I can create a relationship based on my horoscope. And once we develop relationships that are sincere, that are authentic, that are open-hearted, filled with welcoming and love, we develop bonds. And once you get to know each other and respect each other, it actually becomes very hard to then hate.
Oh, wow. Wow.
There you go. Can I drop the microphone on that one? Can I do
Yes.
that?
Yes,
You can,
sir.
absolutely, because if you walk around with hate in your heart, dogs will bite you.
Ooh, yes, they will.
I can't have that in my heart, or the dogs will not trust me and will not let go and be vulnerable with me. They'll go cower in the corner. So I can't possess that. If it's in my system, I can't train dogs.
Exactly. And we have a beautiful baby on board. Look at babies. They do not know color. They don't know the difference in language. They are just like, hey, baby, come.
They don't know hate.
They don't. We are born with love, and then we learn hate.
Saddens me greatly. Saddens me. I watch people learn hate on a daily basis, and it saddens me greatly.
One of the personal challenges I'm taking on is to move from non-racist and also to recognize those prejudices that I may be unconscious to within myself, to move from non-racist to this new for me, and a term of anti-racism. Do you have some tips for me or any questions to ask me how I can challenge myself to simultaneously build those bridges and have those boundaries?
There was a word that Germaine mentioned earlier about listening. If we take the time to listen, and I'm going to quickly break it down. There are 5 types of listening, by the way. There's ignoring, which is type number 1, not very effective. Any of you who have children, you'll relate to the second type of listening, and it's called selective listening. We hear what we want. Then there's this evil twin, which is called, selective listening, ignoring, selective listening. I'll come back to it. But the 4th type is active listening. And active listening is very effective. So I pay attention to you and I hear the words that you say, and I could write notes and I look in your eye and I actively listen to you. But the ultimate form of listening is empathetic listening. So if I listen to you, Geraldine, with empathy, that means that I'm trying to understand your perspective. I might not agree with your perspective, but if I can understand your perspective, there's an opportunity for a stronger relationship. There's an opportunity for me to open my mind and think differently. So to your point there, Larry, if you want to be more empathetic towards racism, towards LGBTQ, towards sexism, towards any of those prejudices that we have, if you just simply listen empathetically to understand what suffering are you going through that I'm unaware of.
Wow.
Just take the time to listen to that.
Thank you.
That will, and it really is that simple. Just listen.
That's a great piece, Vital.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, to move from the serious back to the world of fun. You have a prop, and I just want to go right to the prop.
Right to the prop, Larry.
Hang on, I'm trying to
much
bring
fun.
up.
As you find it, I can go from serious to clown in 0.6 seconds. So I'm glad you made that U-turn, because it's, yes, there it is. There she is. Yes.
So
what's
that about? Why, because you're talking about leadership, and why is the clown nose so important?
So this is a tool that I use, and I've somewhat borrowed from other people.
Right.
Patch Adams used to use the clown nose. It ties into my Cirque du Soleil background. Clowns, there are clowns that use red noses. So here's the value of clown noses, and I use it again in workshops. I also use it for myself to remind myself to, now forgive me for being a bit blunt, but sometimes I have a stick up my bum and I'm a bit rigid, and I get caught up in my thoughts, and so I have to put on the clown nose and remind myself, Vital, lighten up. Reconnect with your inner child. On the subject,
It's really
of fun,
important.
it is so it's crucial. On the topic of fun, there have been numerous studies that show employees, human beings, we are more engaged, we are more open-minded when we are having fun. We absorb more knowledge when we are having fun. It's just simply the way it is.
Oh, that
Retention
makes
is you have more retention as well when you have humor around it, wrapped around it, or something that helps spark that, imprinting it. It's really, I mean, all of my dog training is humorous. There's something funny about it, because if it was not funny, they would not remember. When I walk out the door, they'd be like, whatever she said.
That's exactly it. And so what I've learned over the years in doing team building workshops and working with executive leadership is, when I get a group of people to put on this clown nose, a lot of things happen. The first thing that happens, which is maybe the most important, the minute they put their clown nose on, their ego goes out the door. Their inhibitions go out the door. Their reservations, their prejudice, because they're just focused in, they feel silly, and
it opens their heart. It opens their heart up. Mm-hmm.
It opens their heart. And once we become open, putting on a hat, what do we do at Halloween?
Ears, when I wear my ears.
That's right. Geraldine has been on the show. It's so funny. I'm self-conscious. I'm wondering if the hat looks cool enough for me.
It looks so cute.
It looks fantastic.
Smashing, darling. Smashing.
Smashing, darling. But what happens when we put on a prop? What happens at Halloween when we put on makeup and wardrobe? We suddenly forget who we are, and we gain courage, and we open up, and we try things, and we take risks. And all those elements open our minds to exploring, experiencing the new, the different. We expand our horizons.
Becoming curious about the new and different that we haven't explored before, without fear or prejudice.
And when you don't have fear and you don't have prejudice, first of all, you open your heart to other people. Now, all of a sudden, you open and you want to embrace people. You stimulate connections. Creativity is another key component. Once we get our egos and all those inhibitions out the way, our creativity thrives.
So true. So true.
Another mic drop right there. Boom.
Bam!
If I'm judging myself, my creativity will go hide in the corner and say, I don't want to be judged. Yeah.
And then that prevents you from exploring, taking risks. When you're free of other people's judgments, you will, one, live authentically, but you will be free to express yourself. And there is so much empowerment when people find their authentic voice and they can become who they really are and start expressing themselves. it opens doors, and it builds self-confidence. Being free to be
Did you hear
you.
that? Did you hear that, Atlas? Atlas, hey, is that imprinting in you?
Sleeping.
Just sitting in grandma's lap is going to give him a big boost of confidence there.
Definitely.
You fell asleep
Well,
a while ago.
You guys, we could go on forever. I mean, this is always fascinating. And now this is, our third time, Vital, having a conversation together. And Geraldine, you and Vital go way, way back. And and Robbie, this is the first time for you and Atlas. Yeah. So I think let's segue into our shelter shout out.
Oh.
And
yes. Now, is this for me, or is this something that you guys promote? Because you guys obviously do incredible work with so many dogs.
Well, it's all of us. All of us are going to give our own shelter shout out today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we'll start with you.
You just adopted Kari from a shelter.
Yes. So I got Kari from the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society, and they were amazing. They really made sure that I was the right owner, that Kari was the right dog for me. They really took the time to allow us to connect. We met at the park. I connected with the foster parents just to make sure that it was the right fit, and it happens to be the perfect fit. So shout out to the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. Kibo I got from Lead Animal Shelter, which have also allowed me to enrich my life by, I think if I'm correct, I don't know what the official term is, Geraldine. Maybe you can help me. They don't put dogs down. There's no euthanize. I don't think they euthanize at that animal shelter.
They call them a no-kill shelter when they're but it's really I never mean to mislead. It's impossible to be quote unquote no-kill. That is unfortunately a myth. But they do the best they can, because there's going to be some dog that will come in with an issue that is, a genetic issue that literally is detrimental to the pet's health. Yeah. So, there's much to consider. But yes, they try to be as close to no kill as possible. They try to do everything they can to heal and train and adopt out.
Okay, good. Because I'm all for protecting, lives of animals.
Of course, we do. I mean, they do everything they can to protect every life. An example would be if they adopt out a dog that has a genetic disorder, and that family has a child, and something happens. I mean, God forbid, that genetic disorder, that dog would need to go to the right home, so that would live at the shelter longer in order to find the right home for that type of animal, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So,
Geraldine,
I've worked with both of those great shelters before, so I'm completely aware of the amazing things that they do for pets, and I'm glad that you supported them and they were able to support you with such amazing animals, because those animals are amazing.
Yes, they are.
Geraldine, while you're in Breckenridge, I know you've seen a couple of dogs. Is there a shelter there you want to give a shout out to?
I've seen quite a few dogs while I've been here, actually, and I'll be seeing quite a few more. And I hope I have time tomorrow to go visit one of the local shelters here in Breckenridge. It's not that far away, and they actually take in a lot of cases that they are not able to adopt out down in the cities, which is really unusual and unique. And one of the reasons why is because they have all this great landscape to go hike dogs everywhere. So my shout out is to the Animal Rescue of the Rockies.
Beautiful.
And I'll be able to hopefully send you some more information about them, or report back to you on some more information about them soon.
You're amazing. Even on holiday, this is what you want to do with your time.
I know, I'm crazy, aren't I? I mean, it's fun, and to me, it's just part of it's just part of my life. I just live my life, and it relaxes me seeing all the great things that people do in the world for animals.
So by the way,
we got a sighting here.
Yes, we have a dog sighting. That was
Hi,
Kibo.
Nice.
Well, at least for a moment, if you looked closely, you saw an ear.
The ear.
You can stalk Vital on social media like we do and see beautiful photos of his pets.
Good point. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie, anybody you're thinking of for a shelter shout out today?
I'm thinking of Lollipop Farm in Rochester, mainly because they take in everything. They will take snakes, hamsters, horses, ducks, swans, dogs, cats, anything.
I love the name. Oh, there's Kibo.
Oh, let's hear it. One second here. Since we've got a sign in.
Nice.
That was a good boy.
I love the name, Robbie. Lollipop.
I know.
Oh, what a great name for a dog.
Yeah.
Or is that the animal? Is that the animal shelter? Lollipop.
Lollipop Farm.
Oh, I love that.
That's
I do
great.
too.
Well, I'm going with our good friends at the Humane Society of Southern Arizona. They're really challenged right now, and you've heard me talk about them on the show before, and they're really on my heart, on my mind today. Humane Society of Southern Arizona.
And with the heat and COVID and just all that mixed together, God bless them.
Yeah.
I hope that they can pull it all together and stay strong.
I hope to have an update for you folks next week from them. Gratitude and blessings is a big part of this show. Is there somebody today, Vital, who's on your heart, on your mind, to give some gratitude or extend a blessing to?
I don't want to narrow it down to one person, but there have been several people that throughout my life have really changed the trajectory when I was going through doubt, self-loathing, all those emotions that we experience, who just that little element of belief, that little element of encouragement and support that really put me back on track. My gratitude goes to all those people who contributed to my journey, because we never travel a journey alone. There are endless people who inspire us, who mentor us, who guide us, and I'm grateful for those people.
Beautiful. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I mean, could I have a bigger blessing than this sleeping baby in my arms? I think that I could. I think that was my blessing today.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Look at that. All right, I'll go next.
Okay.
My gratitude is for Vital. There are probably not enough words to express my gratitude for him, even having the little bit of presence he's had in my life, but I've been lucky enough to stalk him over all these years and keep up with him and watch him create and watch his authentic resilience in so many ways.
Thank you.
So I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being a part of our world.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thanks for being a survivor.
Yes, thank you.
And a thriver.
And a thriver.
Yes.
My gratitude goes to these 7 other men who are in my men's group. We now meet on Zoom every Wednesday night. Had a great meeting last night and got to ask each other some really profound questions and challenge each other around the issues of the day. And we hold each other feet to the fire, as well as bless and encourage each other into greater greatness. So thank you, guys. All right. Well, this has been a great show. My gosh, we're almost up to an hour here. Thank you, folks, for hanging on.
With so much for boundaries, right?
Oh, that's right. It's potty time. All right.
It is potty time.
Come up here for a hello. All right. Thank you so much, Vital.
My goodbye message, everybody. Do not stop believing.
Love it.
Oh,
love. Thank you.
Right.
Everybody,
thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Soon, if I can put up our out music, and here we go. See you tomorrow.